Conor McGregor, one of the greatest fighters to earn success in multiple divisions of the UFC. He's proven his mettle in the featherweight division against the reigning champion. Moreover, he bulked up to prove himself again in the lightweight division. We all know his commitment to transforming his body and facing his opponent in the octagon. But we don't know the man behind these outstanding transformations. Join us on ES Fancast to unearth the genius behind the Irishman's impossible feats.
Hello there, and welcome to the ES Fancast, stories from insiders for the fans. The ES Fancast is an immersive interview experience that gets you, the fan, a peek inside the world of your favorite stars like never before. The Fancast gets you front row seats to your favorite athletes and their teams, and interact with stars, answer polls, explore our content-rich feed. And today, my goodness, we sit down with one of the frontier voices in sports health and the man responsible for keeping Conor McGregor in prime condition, Tristin Kennedy, ace nutrition to MMA champs. Having started 7 years ago, Tristin has made waves in the MMA world and is one of the men behind the success of the notorious Conor McGregor. He's not just involved with MMA, he's also involved with sports such as football, the GAA, and horse riding. We have Tristin here today to understand where Conor's preparation stands right now and how far we are from the much-awaited comeback amongst many other insights. So let's get into it. Tristin, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, how are you? Good, Noah. How are you?
I'm great. It's like the middle of the night here in California still, but like we're so juiced right now. You know, the only thing I'm missing is a proper 12 cup right now. But besides that, we're great. We're great.
You're actually, yeah. All
great mark.
Great marketing.
That's great marketing.
You have to get the top stock in you know. I'd love to have some Ford George Stout here as well, but we drank it all in this household, I'm afraid. So yeah, no, it's tough. It's a pleasure to meet you, man. Pleasure to be here, and yeah, excited to talk to you and to your viewers and get their I suppose get their feedback and things and how things are going and stuff like that. Yeah, so yeah, cool. It's cool to be here.
Absolutely. So obviously you've been in this industry for about 7 years now. Nutrition and training is so interesting in the MMA. Like, what are some of the what is unique about dealing with MMA fighters versus like other athletes in your line of work?
I suppose the MMA athlete, they're probably, in my opinion, the most extreme type of athlete there is. You know, MMA as a total, if you look at the different aspects and avenues you have to train and be adapted to and do well at, is, you know, there's multiple disciplines. There's wrestling, BJJ, striking, of course, including kickboxing and boxing. You know, and then you've got karate, all these different types of elements and different styles. So you've got all these different things that the actual fighter has to be skilled at. And then to complement that, you need the fitness system to complement that and obviously the nutrition. So when you kind of bundle all that together, it's like, you know, these guys, they have a lot to do. They have a lot to train for. They've only a certain amount in the day, hours-wise, to do that. So, like, to me, when I think of that and when I think of sports science, I think of all the athletes and people I've worked with and stuff like that, there's no more extreme than an MMA athlete. And when you couple that ball of what I've just told you into, they have to manage a weight descent and be on weight and go in and, you know, do the whole thing that fight week entails and then go in and fight. They really are, to me, you know, the pinnacle, at least the pinnacle athletes out there, you know. And because it's so extreme as well, it's like, you know, and being around guys, like it really is a pleasure to be around these guys because their mindset is, you know, we can do this. We can do the 3 training sessions a day. We can do whatever we set out to do and go and achieve it. And you kind of, I suppose, you take that bit of spice from them and you apply that to your own life. So yeah, it's just great. I think it's a great atmosphere to be around, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. But they are definitely unique people for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a unique, you know, a common trait you see in an MMA fighter's diet before excluding the weight cut that's different from other athletes?
I would say the volume of food. Again, because we have to be on a weight descent, the volume of food that these guys are able to intake is much, much lower than your typical athlete. Like, we have to restrict actual food going in. When we restrict food, we restrict nutrients. It's as simple as that, so
Damn.
yeah. So, like, if you have a football player, whatever, rugby player, NFL player, these guys can load up all the way through, and should be loading up on nutrients and food all the way through their career, really. Because food's, it's so important for recovery, and it's not just important for like fueling before matches, it's important for fueling after. But excuse me, again, with MMA athletes, the volume of food and what they can eat and the different foods they have to choose will be definitely different than your typical athlete, for sure. Absolutely. Again, because we have to manage their weight descent. And it goes back to that kind of first conversation we had, the first question we had about, like, how are MMA athletes different? And that's certainly one area in which they are, for sure.
Yeah.
So I would say
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to play basketball, and I stuffed myself like a pig and couldn't gain a pound. So it's like,
again, it is important. Like, there's a misconception out there with food and athleticism and people wanting to do well in sports. It's like people nearly fear it. It's no, you need to be eating and eating really, really well if you want to compete in this day and age in any sport. I don't care what it is, because the level is after just going up so extreme, and it keeps on getting extreme, and sports science keeps on evolutionizing. And so it is a tough game out there, whatever sport you have. Like, here in my own country, we have GAA, which is my own sport. And I'm a bit older now, and I'm coming up against younger guys in the sport, and it's like the younger guys coming up didn't know how they are doing what I wasn't doing when I was younger, because it just wasn't the thing to do. But the demand now has gone greater. So these young guys are coming up, they're all buffed up and ready to go, and here's this older guy now trying to compete with them. But
right.
I think a minor scale, that tells you the growth of sports science and how information has become readily available and how people are able to apply it to themselves. So the competition gets greater, and again, that's what you see. And if you can imagine, that's on an amateur level. So, like, when you go up to a professional level, where we do and what we operate in, it goes to the moon, and it's still skyrocketing. So the demand is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you met the Notorious 5 years ago and have been working with him ever since. What do you think's changed over the years with the former featherweight and lightweight champion?
Not much. Like, he's just a very driven individual, hardcore for training. Like, follows his diet like to a T. Like, I see all these misconceptions out in the media. It's absolute crap, So I just know Conor to be a very hardworking individual, trains very well. He's been very good to me. He's obviously my boss as well, as long as on top of, like, who I work for, on top of all, like, the sports science stuff. So yeah, no, he, from my experience working with him, been excellent. Thoroughly enjoyable. Have had many great experiences, and I really feel that when we go in as well, when we're in fights and stuff like that, I'm really a core part of all that, which is exciting and gets me up out of bed in the morning. So it's so it's just great to be a part of. Yeah,
absolutely. So obviously, and you've been with Conor for almost the entirety of UFC career. What do you think? What is you think his best weight class? Is either the 145, the 155, the 170? Like, what is the best weight class for Conor in your opinion?
I would say as you get older, like, your body gets bigger, to say simply, like, and it gets, a lot of things happen from on a biological perspective. But like, if you were to say to me what's his perfect weight class now, again, I'd allude to what I answered there about, like, Conor. It's like, any weight class. Like, you could literally say to me, Tristin, oh, the 145, and I would look at him and go, let's go, because I've no doubt when he gets down to when we get in camp as well, especially when we get in camp, everything's dialed in and we don't miss a beat. So whatever weight class, and I know he said that before himself, and I get why he said that now, because his training drives him to kind of go to whatever weight class we want to go. It'd be nice to see him again at 155. I'd have no problem seeing him at 170 either. Hell, he could even go up to 185. That's the type of skill set he has. That's the type of man he is, driven to do. We don't do things Mickey Mouse over here. We dial it in to a T. So again, I'd have no queries about any weight class that he takes on. And then that's only me talking from the sports science kind of area. Then there's the skill set side of area where, there's multiple areas, but there's skill set side of area of him taking on them athletes. And again, absolutely no problem with that at all either.
Yeah,
he's a gifted individual. So bring them all on, I say.
Do you have a crystal ball in the next year in terms of like the weight class? Like, do you think he's gonna, when he fights next year, will we see him at 155, or are you gonna beef him up to 190? I mean, there's nothing you can't do. You are the master nutritionist, so you're gonna get him to 200. What's the deal?
Well, I'll put it like this. No, I'm a man of science, so I don't believe in crystal balls. So you're just gonna have to wait and see.
Fair. Okay. I want to take it back a little bit. Obviously, we saw Conor a couple years ago with the horrific leg break. Hate to see it, and was unfortunate to witness, to be a part of that. Can you give sort of did you see sort of the difference in training camp of the UFC star regards to the Dustin Poirier rematches of how he was training?
Well, I wasn't there. It wouldn't be fair for me to comment on the differences in training between Poirier camps, because Poirier 1 was multiple years ago, and that was before I was with Conor. I can comment on Poirier 2 and of course the leg break, because I was there for all that. For obviously the training camp and post the fight, which was a difficult time for all of us, because when you do again, and it links into kind of the first question, is like, why are MMA athletes so extreme? And because you risk all these high end injuries. It's a high risk, high reward game. Sometimes it's not even rewarding. It is crazy. Like, because you see a lot of fighters going about how much they're paid and stuff like that. But that's another story. It's just a high risk game. So we put in a lot of work into that camp. It was his first time down to 155 as well in a few years, I believe. I think we did Cowboy Fight before that, which went very, very successfully for us. Again, really, really well. Camp was brilliant. I thought our camp for Poirier 2, and our team will attest to that too. It was excellent. He was in supreme condition. We had a great weight cut. We actually made 155 in that weight cut and not 156. It was like to make a statement. It was like, we're back. And this kind of, there's a lot of media kind of represented that, I know you wouldn't be able to make 155 again and blah, 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 blah. But Conor and I knew that the work that was driven into that from the nutritional perspective and the training perspective. So we were really ready to rock for it. And sorry, this is Poirier 3 I'm talking about. Sorry, I was mixing up Poirier 2 and Poirier 3. But the Poirier 2 camp went well. It didn't go for us to fight. That was in Abu Dhabi. I've got mixed up there. Poirier 3 then, when the leg, again, it was a fantastic camp, fantastic cut.
Right.
The leg break happened, and it was tough, man, because when you see a fighter, go through something like a horrific injury like that, and you're just so invested in his camp from obviously your work perspective and from a personal perspective, you build up relationships with these people. It's not nice to see. I thought the fight was actually, there was a plan laid out for that fight, and it was going our way. And it's hard for, I don't think it's hard for people to see that if you know MMA a little bit. And it was just unfortunate to happen. After it did happen, we had to put a lot of work into obviously his recovery, his rehabilitation. That wasn't obviously a few weeks job. It takes a long time to recover from that. And again, once he dials in his protocols and regimes, he again, he comes out better the other side because he dials himself in. It goes down to the hard work and commitment he puts into these things. And now we're on the right road again. So I'm very, very excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking to this long road, man, like lately, this dude has been looking buff. I mean, Conor is looking like Jack, man. What the hell have you been feeding him lately?
Again, man, he's just he stays on his fitness and his nutritional protocols and foods and you know, he doesn't miss a beat, you know. So I guess when you have the demand of that, like, you know, being in camps, it sets a certain demand on your body, you know. And we had a specific goal when we're in camps to be at a specific body composition. I think people have this misconception that fighters should be like, you know, this weight of ripped and lean, you know, all year long. Now, like, Conor does keep his leanness very well, again, because he's on his diet and all that, but he obviously got a bit bigger. But again, we were able to provide more food. I alluded to more food, more volume leads to more nutrients earlier on. That's what we're able to do. And that's what you see then. You see this kind of, you know, buffed up man, ready to starting to move your roles really well and stuff like that. So it worked out well.
Are you a chicken guy? You a steak guy? You a fish guy? Like what? Well,
me?
Like, let me start with you. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking. Like, I'm a steak guy. I'm a chicken guy. I'm a big fish guy. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so is, like, you know, our diet will comprise of, when I'm speaking to Conor, like, you know, of Conor, it's like, you know, multiple. We've a wholesome variable diet. We include all foods that are applicable to our goal and our nutrient quality and what we are required. And yeah, we've multiple, like, you know, we like, there's multiple recipes and things of that we are able to eat and consume and as part of our diet, which is great, because then it doesn't get boring, you know. So yeah, it's a varied, wholesome diet for sure.
Is your like your plan or strategy, you ever like do you home cook stuff and then like bring it to the training facility? Like, are you like the grandma's cooking strategy, or
No,
are you going shopping? Are you shopping at Whole Foods for Conor? Like, how did this work?
My role is, like, you know, I study. I have a master's in nutrition, basically. Studied it for many years. I have a clinical background in it, and I kind of linked them to sports and nutrition earlier on in my career, and that's how I ended up here. But anyway, with regards to, like, you know, do we? What was the question? Sorry, again. What? Yeah, which one?
I was asking about, like,
lost my train of thought.
How are you preparing the food? Are you cooking it in your kitchen? Are you going and picking it up from your grandmother? Like, how does it work?
Oh yeah, no, sorry. So, like, we would have professional chefs working for us. So I would literally tell the chefs, you know, what to cook, when to cook it, when to time his food, things of that nature. So I kind of manage all that dynamic. And obviously, because, you know, Conor's a global sensation superstar, it's like, you know, he has to go to different areas and be at different points. So we also have to manage, like, you know, his food intake on the road, which can be tricky sometimes. You know, there's a lot of work that goes on in the background, you know, to produce the plate that goes in front of him every day. You know, there actually is, you know, it's detailed menu plans. It's collaborating with chefs, whether he be in Europe, whether he's in the United States, when he's over on another continent. And obviously, I travel everywhere with Conor. I'm on annual leave at the moment, just taking a few weeks off. But otherwise, I'd be with him now, and we'd be doing our thing. But because I'm not with him now, I'm still in collaboration with the people around him, so he gets all his correct nutrition, hydration, supplementation.
You worried he's gonna sneak some fast food in while you're gone? You're gonna get some Burger King?
No, man. Again, like, I'll say it. I said it once before. You'd be very, very on his diet, very, very on his diet the whole time. So I don't have any worries. And to be honest with you, if that did happen, it'd be no harm, you know, because he's so on the other spectrum of sticking to his diet and doing it well, you know, and not a Burger King or something like that here and there. I don't think it would hurt him. Yeah,
hey, he's a better man than me. You know, I'm from California, but I live in Texas, And I know if you guys are down here, man, you'll see some fast food you're gonna want to take a bite of.
Enough to be. We've been in LA a few times. What begins with N, and Newtown, isn't it? Was it? I forget the name of the place, but we've been in some nice places in LA, and it's always been a nice spot. Yeah, there's some nice takeaways there. There is for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. I wanna talk to you about and we talked a little about this earlier, but weight cuts. Like as a nutritionist, like so Alexander Volkanovski, like apparently he dropped 21 pounds in 10 days recently. You know, as a nutritionist, you see these drastic weight cuts. Like, does it just make you nervous? Like, what is your opinion on like how do you feel about the weight cuts, and like what are the shifts you see there?
Weight cutting is a very, very dangerous element of the sport that I think is becoming more prevalent. The awareness of it is becoming more now. You know, it's hard to really explain to people the dangers of weight cutting if it's not done right. You know, Alex Volk there, I know he cut a lot of weight. You know, when I see that, I kind of go, and I know his practitioner I know his practitioner. I don't know him very well, but he's a good practitioner, and he knows what I feel. You know, I know what he's at, and he would have his practitioner is with him a while, and he would have a lot of data on him, so you know what that fighter's capable of. You know, when I seen Volk cut 21 pounds and stuff like that, I'm like going. I know exactly, like I said, I know his practitioner, so I know he would have done it safe. I know his practitioner will use data and what that Alex is capable of doing, and hence why he was able to make that weight. But that goes on without supervision, without a guy looking over him and saying, "Okay, look, man, you should do this here and you should do that there," and that's not a good thing. You know, do I wish weight cutting wasn't in the sport? Absolutely. Like people think, oh, you'd be out of a job. No, I wouldn't. You know, my what gets me up out of bed in the morning as well is sports performance. You know, so that's really my what I'm driven to do to study and be a part of. I wish weight cutting wasn't involved, but it is an element that is involved, and it requires a lot of care and attention. And you know, weight cutting doesn't start on fight week per se. It starts from when bloody your camp starts, or even before that, because you need certain nutrients in food and volume to kind of correlate to your weight cutting week, and then you will have a successful weight cutting week. And then there's other elements of it, like knowing how to sweat under appropriate times, under appropriate temperatures.
Wow.
Step of heat acclimation. There's a reload process, after make sure that the hydration process is squared away properly. You have these fighters and they cut unbelievable amounts of water. You need to make sure that goes back in them under the correct circumstances and protocols. And then there's the reload for the fight itself. So to answer your question, weight cutting is definitely a dangerous element to it. It can be managed correctly. I think when we were on The Ultimate Fighter, to give you another example, we had Lee Hammond, who was a very good friend of mine. And, I work with Lee as well. He's part of our team under Conor's team. And he got the shout for tough, I think, 2 weeks out. I think we were like 14 kgs out. So that was, and we met it. Yeah, it was a long one, but we met it. Again, I knew what Lee was capable of there. I knew I had data and trends, and yeah, it required a bit of work, but we got there.
The details of the shit is incredible. I mean, like, it's such a meticulous process that I don't think it's enough coverage. That reload process, like, that's insane. So, like, after Conor cuts all this weight and he makes weight, and then it's time to reload. Like, are you just shoving food in his mouth and water? Like, how does that? What's that like 24-hour?
Good question, though. That a lot of people have just I just got to load up and food up, but you can't do that, because what you would have to, again, it's such a minute process in terms of you have to look out for such subtle kind of things that are going on. And I think that comes with knowing the practical application, knowing the science and being educated on it, but also knowing from experience, little things and little elements that can come and go with weight cutting. Like, I used to work in social care. I used to be manager of a social care facility years ago, and I used to manage people with special needs. And I think, when you're in that environment, you have to look out for subtle things that go wrong or go right, and note them things. And I think that's probably the best training ever that I got for weight cutting, because when you're in there, and you're putting a guy in a bath or a sauna, like, you can't just go, all right, and you go there now, lock the door. It's not like, you have to really, really care for these people and be conscious of their health parameters and monitor all them things and know how to manage them things if something comes up, and know how to spot things if something appears, and that could make or break a fighter, from from a mortality perspective, but also for the performance. You have to be on, camps are tough going for I think, the likes of people like me as well, because again, you're just constantly watching different things that possibly, okay, don't do that there, okay, have this here, or do this here. It's a very vigilant process, and it should be, but
Yeah, absolutely. That's super great insights, man. I really appreciate that.
I'm drifting away from the bloody question, but yeah, reloading, man. It's like the main thing you have to watch out for is gastrointestinal issues. So, timing of food, the specific foods that, for once, is there nutrients that have to go in? Is there supplementation that has to go in? You can't just load up. You'll get gastro, you get bloated, and I tell you, a bloated fighter going into a fight is not a nice thing. They'll be sluggish, not sharp in the head.
You don't want to hit a bloated fighter in the stomach. That you might get something else coming your way.
Or maybe that could be a good thing, you get the
that's a good defense mechanism. You vomit on yourself, hitting him in the stomach. But anyways, I want to shift to Conor's boxing tenure when he fought Floyd Mayweather. Was there any differences in approach training to fight against Floyd? What were some things that you were cognizant of now that at that moment in time you were working with a boxer?
At that moment in time, no, I wasn't working with Conor for his Floyd Mayweather fight. I worked with when we train muscle. Obviously, when we're at training sessions, we do multiple training sessions. I alluded to earlier about the different skill set he has to do, and obviously boxing is one of them. And from a training perspective, when it comes to boxing, one of my favorite things to do is watch Conor box. It's just it's like he's in the Matrix. I love it. I love watching him box, because he let alone, I know he does kickboxing, he does all that, and he's unbelievable at that. But when I see him box, it's just boom, boom, boom. I don't know how he does these things, and it's majestic to watch. And I think that goes back to his years of training in it under in Crumlin Boxing Club. I don't know if you know about the legend Phil Sutcliffe. Phil's a master of the game, and again, it's no coincidence that Conor's that good, because like I alluded to earlier, he just dials himself in for things that he wants to do and achieve. And when you see him box and you take on Floyd Mayweather, who's one of the probably greatest of all times, people outside his ring will go I think in the public perception will go, that's crazy to do. But I would never ever think that even. And that's not even, I'm not even messing. I would go, yeah, we're taking on Floyd Mayweather, let's go for it, no problem. Because again, we've got every chance in the world of success against anyone, and firmly believe that. And so I get why he took on that challenge. Came up short, but I think again, when I look at that fight, could have went either way at times. And that uppercut, man, was just so close. It's just But and if Conor lands that on you, it's lights out. So different boxing is a different regime in terms of training. I think if you're going to get specifics about it, obviously, because it's a skill set that needs honing all the time. How nutrition would correlate to boxing would be very similar. It'd be very, very similar in a way. Your boxers have to do weight descent, they have to be, explosive, sharp in the brain. So yeah, it's a very similar to MMA in the types of preparation you would do for nutrition. So again, once he dials it in, we can take on anyone, and he does dial it in. So
For sure. And obviously hindsight is 2020, right? But do you think there's anything you would have changed to whether it's training, diet, to help increase stamina, the gas tank, as everyone calls it? Is there anything that you would adjust?
Well, gas tank, it's a funny one, all like when people talk about gas tank and things like this to me, because fighting, like I said, it's a very intense process, and it requires a lot of demand on the body. So, once you're training them systems and you're correlating your nutrition to that, you'll have no worries if you're putting in the effort. To comment on, fighters in general and gas tanks and stuff like that, it's something I don't do, because there's so many variables in fights that come up that can, extinguish that a bit, extinguish that fire a bit, so different things come up. It could be injuries, it could be a personal circumstance that come up before it that can weigh on you. So yeah, like gas tanks are a funny one to me. I don't really like commenting on them and stuff like that, because I feel these fighters, like, again, we're at that kind of place with professional fighting that, like, you'd be a fool not to be on top of your cardiovascular system and your endurance and things like that. So
For sure.
when these guys make the walk, man, I just go credit to them, because step in a ring, messing around with even the guy that it's a hard thing. It's a hard challenge to do. So these guys are doing it under lights under the global stage for our entertainment. So again, I wouldn't be kind of putting anyone or laying anyone down over different things like that, and that's my appreciation that I've got of from these guys in fighting over the years. Like, even when I see the celebrity boxing going on now, and people are going, they're only celebrities. I'm there going, you get in a ring.
Yeah, you get punched in the mouth. You get an uppercut. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't do any of that. I don't fight or anything like that. But it's I'm around it a lot. And obviously the guy is kind of messing around and stuff. And it's a daunting thing. It's a daunting thing.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then, like, that alludes to sort of the next, like, the Khabib fight. Obviously, that was, like, one of the biggest fights in MMA history. Looking back on that training camp, that preparation, is there anything you said to yourself, like, damn, like, I wish I would have adjusted that? Or was it just you don't have any, reservations about it?
No, man. No, I'm not gonna, again, like, I'm not gonna comment on, I wasn't actually it was after the Khabib fight where I came in, and again, it wouldn't be fair to comment on things that go on behind closed doors, because I wasn't there. That,
Sure.
like, people again say, like, he could have shown up differently or anything like that, but how do you know? Nobody knows. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, wasn't there, so I'm not going to kind of comment on what went on behind the background. I'd love for us to get that fight again. I would love it. So
me too.
it might come up, so never know.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that, like, Conor could fight at, like, pretty much any weight class, but that 145, that is a strong cut, man. I mean, that's clearly not Conor's natural weight. And Joe Rogan even commented on Conor's physique a while back. Like, what was your thoughts on his health when he was at 145 in those years?
Well, I'm not a proponent of, doing big cuts, for sure. When I look back at that 145er, like, I'd say it was tough going, but again, once the man applies himself to anything, he blows it out of water. So again, he blew that out of water. Like, Conor's never missed weight. Never once missed weight. Yep. So, like, if you were asked to go down to 145 now as a bigger man, I'd be like, that would entail probably a lot of muscle loss, so that wouldn't be a good thing, although you try to kind of hinder that as best you can, try to kind of, conserve muscle, because it's very, very important to have it. Muscle produces force. Force helps you knock people out. That's just one component of it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be doing that, and then like, you have to do that. You actually have to go through that process of going down in weight and then doing a cut and then getting on scales and then rehydrating up and going into a fight and then recovery after the fight. So I can see where Joe's comments are realistic for sure. But yeah, I wouldn't be a fan of doing these big cuts, especially, man, if you keep kind of going into where can I put this? The kind of water reserves of the body too deeply. That's not a good, especially for the brain. The brain would dehydrate and wouldn't rehydrate in time before the fight for sure. Like I would definitely have questions about that. And then, these fighters are going in with a dehydrated brain because there's water that keeps like all your brain kind of cushioned in a way. So these guys are going in and getting hit in the head then. Not a good thing. So I wouldn't be a proponent for that at all. So I'm not a proponent for big cuts. I'm a proponent for structured performance-based cuts,
Sure.
Doing them correctly, making sure everything is squared away properly, the fighter's taken care of, and they're ready to perform.
Yeah, shit, you're giving me an education here. I love hearing about sort of the different different components of the brain.
The science. I'm only joking.
Yeah. And staying on like Joe Rogan, like obviously there was like back and forth between, back and forth relating to the his physique. Fortunately that, was resolved. But during like that period, Conor was working on Roadhouse, starring, Jake Gyllenhaal. Can you give us an insight of like the middleweight physique that, Conor was talking about?
Yeah, well, again, we had a goal for Roadhouse, physique wise, because it's a movie, and Julian, our the performance and strength and conditioning side of things, he took care of that as well. He has a kind of overall coaching role as well. So like, we call him the doc. The doc and we came up with kind of, this kind of regime that we could do from nutrition and training perspective. Obviously I have the nutrition side, he was the training side. And, the man himself took on the challenge of doing it all. And as he always does, showed up in ready to go, prime condition. And did an unbelievable job, I thought, on the movie, which is, I think, coming out in 2024. So it's good for everyone to enjoy. And he looked incredible. And credit to Conor. Again, he stuck to what he had to do. And it was great.
Hey, we're gonna give you the label Hollywood nutritionist as well. You're not just MMA. I should change my introduction next time.
Yeah, that's a good show. It's like, because I've been around all these different dynamics again, but the nutrition for while on set was interesting because you have to time your nutrients properly. You had to have look full and have a pump on, and then there was the concept of acting. When you're on set for multiple hours. And we had to correlate his nutrition so he wouldn't get bloated. He wouldn't have any, gastrointestinal issues. We had to time it then so he wasn't hungry. Couple that with a hot environment where we filmed it. And, you've got hydration status issues. So there's a lot of moving parts in that as well. That was, again, squared away properly. And recovery and the demand of constantly filming every day. Like, movie business is no joke. I got a real insight into that, and it's no joke.
Yeah, was the you ever catch him complaining about the movie schedule, and then meanwhile he's an MMA fighter who trains 3 times a day anyways? Well,
that's the other thing, we had to fit in training as well. Because Conor doesn't stop training. He's we're always on training, and so we had to kind of marry the schedule with our own training schedule, which we got great people around us, great people on our team, and that was all managed and correlated correctly. So happy days.
Yeah, for sure. And so in episode 2 of McGregor Forever, Conor states this is the best shape he's ever been in. Asks you to look over the official photos of the event, and then the two of you start embracing. Can you tell us the story behind that little hug?
Yeah, that was just, I think, again, it was that was a nice moment because it was a lot of work that we put into. I actually got confused in this earlier where I started talking about Pyre 2, but Pyre 2 was the first time he was down to 155 for a long time, and we wanted to make the point of like kind of doing the whole 155 thing. Not make a point, if it came up and we were able to cross that bridge, the 155 bridge, and it just happened. That's the way it happened with the cut. But yeah, that was a nice moment because we were after doing a lot of work in terms of how we got to that point, man. That was a lot of work, a lot of weeks of training, a lot of dieting, a lot of like performance, still trying to improve his performance, cardiovascular system, and we were after traveling as well a lot building up to that. I think we did most of the camp in Portugal for that in Lagos, and we were after just then between that and Dublin, Ireland, and we had an octagon set up in Ireland for Conor set up his own private octagon, so we had that kind of space to train and do our thing. And I guess it was just it was when he called me over, he's like, Tristan, have a look at these, because these are like the official, like we have our own photographer, David Fogarty, who's best in the game. So we got to kind of see the physique of Conor in action as well. But there was also kind of these UFC official photographs, and it was just because that moment was like when the official photographs were taken, and your man's just showing us the aftermath of taking them, and we just seen the physique, and it was just like, wow, So it was a nice moment to share for sure, and I was proud. I was very proud of it because it was a lot of hard work, and fair play to him and a lot of trust. He has to put a lot of trust in me to get him to that point. So I guess it was nice to kind of have that kind of acknowledged.
Yeah, that's amazing to see your work pay off like that, and that master's education in nutrition paying off. I'm glad the tuition was worth it, my man.
Yeah, well, still paying for it, man.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, reassuring that maybe.
No, you're spot on. Like education is everything, and I had doubts about doing that masters and doing all these different things as well. But I followed my my passion and what I wanted to do, and thank God it pulled off. Like, you know what I mean. But it was just hard work and commitment. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, like obviously, we've talked about the proper 12, the forged stout. You guys have enthusiastically been promoting it. I can't wait to examine the bottle and see what's going on there. But you're wearing the oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'll get some out to you for sure.
Let's go. And you're wearing the fast shirt, very, very on brand. Obviously, the fast program is something you've been actively a part of. Can you share a little insight of your involvement in the fast program and some of the positives of users there?
Yeah, well, the fast program is a structured, I suppose, fitness program and regime that we use in camp when we're fighting, and our team uses very, very diligently and with great success. So I guess the idea behind McGregor Fast was like, to release these protocols and these systems and education, because there's a lot of nutritional education on there I don't think people realize, recipes, everything like that. But I think the idea was to kind of get this out to the public domain, so people could like, benefit from it, and use it and see, and be a part of kind of this kind of like, a regime that like, that works, man, that really works. So I guess like, when you download the app and when you get on the app, it gives you kind of a structured training system, and if you apply yourself to that system, you will see great success. I've no doubt in that. Like, it also keeps your training entertaining and fresh. There's different types of workouts out there, and I do the McGregor Fast system myself, and like I said, I play GAA football, which is a highly lactate threshold and glycosyc sport, which means it's utilizing glycogen a lot and high intensity stuff. And when I prepare myself via the fast program, I'm absolutely ready to go, ready to go. And because I know that is going to happen, it gives me confidence, in myself, my game, and I just then enjoy myself better, and that's ultimately what it's about. And that's only the training regime side of things. There's a whole other nutrition side of things, which is getting more vast now as the thing as a kind of the app progresses, which is great. So yeah, I think it's a really, really brilliant app, and people should definitely try it out. I'll probably give a discount code or something for users to get it. Maybe you could put on your website, which would be great.
Yeah.
But and it sounds like I'm promoting all these things, but I'm honestly talking honest about these things, like even including these whiskey and even the forged Irish stout. Like these are honestly, like, again, I've alluded to, Conor doesn't do things in half. So when people, like, even if you go into the Black Forge pub in Ireland, the standard of the food and even the pricing is like, it's brilliant. And I really, really mean that. Like, you go into this high end, classy pub with exceptional food. The environment and the atmosphere is brilliant. And, Conor just wants people to have fun and enjoy themselves there, and that's what you get, And I'm again, I've no problem saying whiskey, and I've no problem saying all these things, because they really are top end quality produce, that people can, expect to get some sort of happiness from. I'm sure.
You think if I start training with the fast program, and like, how long does it take before like I'll be good enough for you? Maybe rep me. We can get like a fight on the calendar. Like, we gotta. Does this shit work? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you could have a serious engine underneath that hood. Yeah, I'll get you double champ status.
Yeah, man, I'll have to check it out. Usually I just play basketball. Now I want to throw some jabs and some kicks.
Basketball is quite an intense sport. I was lucky enough to go to the Miami Heat game there, I think, a few months back, and again, extreme athletes. And one of my favorite documentaries is the Michael Jordan documentary. The
Last Dance is great.
Oh, I love it, man.
Last Dance is great.
A good few times, and it's very inspirational, very, very good.
No, for sure. So apart from being in Conor's corner, you've also worked with Brad Superman Katona over 5 years. More specifically, you were with him on The Ultimate Fighter when you won it out for Team McGregor. Can you take us a little bit of your journey with Brad?
Yeah, Brad is an exceptional athlete as well. He oh God, I could tell Brad to run through a wall and he'd do it. He's just he's really good to work with. When I started off in this kind of MMA thing, we forged a relationship, and it's just been growing ever since. Initially, when we went over to film The Ultimate Fighter in Las Vegas, Brad got picked on the other team, on Team Chandler, and we were passing notes to one another and stuff like this. We were like
cheat code, study guide.
McGregor. No, but I was delighted. Like there's way more to that. Like, people are going, I got transferred from Team Chandler to Team McGregor and all this jazz. But he's SBG, and he's Team McGregor all the way. And when that kind of transfer did happen, it felt right. It really did. And we again, Brad took that kind of role on that fight on that competition on, I should say, late notice. So we had a bit of work to do, and because he was on the other team and I was obviously on Conor's team, that dynamic of being able to speak to one another and all that was was pretty much gone. So that was difficult to do. Obviously then when he came over, we managed to bridge that gap again and work together, and it was it went really, really well for us, thank God. Because if you look at Brad's division in that 135 division, there was killers in it. Even the guys in our team, Rico and all these guys, absolute studs. So it was a tough division to do. He won the semi-final through a tough fight. And then we had the final probably a month or two ago now. And, everyone didn't think Brad could win that, but I knew how good and how primed he was for that. It's like, the bigger the challenge gets, the even more dialed in Brad Katona gets, and
Yeah.
we dialed in for that. And if I don't know if I'm assuming people watching this are MMA fans, and if you want to see a top MMA fight, I mean a banger for three rounds, watch that fight. Watch the finale with Brad Katona. It's such a great fight, you know. Brad comes out banging. It's just a great fight to watch, and for him to get through that, then he's the only guy in history to be the double champ. It was really good. And we had a few moments after that, Brad and I, you know, on the phone and stuff like that. It was really emotional because, again, when these guys go into fight, you really feel, or at least I really feel, that I'm a part of that journey with them. So it's like, you know, wow, like, you know, to come out of that and to achieve that, and to have, like, you know, a small involvement in that is just brilliant feeling. So very, very happy to do it.
And I was going to allude to that, right? Like you know, you've been an active part of the Ultimate Fighter, and you know, obviously, you know, being a part of McGregor's team. Like, can you give us sort of the dynamic between like Conor, Coach Kavanaugh, you know, yourself? Like, how are you helping out these guys? You know, when he switched teams, you know, were you trying to feed the other team chocolate and like all like bad stuff, like, you know, or were you keeping it neutral? Like, what was your relationship to you know, your contribution?
Yeah, so you know, that dynamic is what it is, a team. You know, it's I think on the show, and I think Mike said, like, you know, Conor wasn't there for trainings and stuff like that, he wasn't there for weight cuts and stuff like that, which is couldn't be further from the truth. He was heavily involved in all the training sessions, most of them, like, you know, and even if he wasn't, he was like, you know, because Conor's a busy man, you know, it was, in my opinion, then training sessions were taken by the best in the game, and it was Conor who brought in all these people, including me, for the weight cuts and all that. Like, you know, Conor was constantly in dialogue with me. How are they doing? What's the weight at? And I would send him like a synopsis of where we're at, where we're going to go with each individual guy, because I had to take care of all the guys' weight cuts. It wasn't just like the guys at 135; it was the guys at 155, and it was it was it was an experience, to say the least. But you know, when you talk about like bringing, like, MMA is an individual sport, but it's the team around these guys that is the driver for the individual to get there, in a sense. So, you know, you have to kind of correlate and be in conjunction with everyone, all the coaches around the team, you know, from Doc to John to Owen to Sergey. Phil was there. We'd all sit down and we'd, like, you know, talk about, like, okay, this guy needs this guy needs this. John might say, okay, well, Tristan, where is he on his weight cut? I would give him the different dynamic around that. And it's all tied in. And then what comes out from that's like a funnel. What comes out in the bottom of that is the best outcome, as we can see as professionals, for that fighter and how they can progress. So, you know, you talk about a team dynamic, and Conor's always heavily involved in that. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have it on the other way, because that's just the way he is. And all them conversations, all them things, and all that dynamic, it was all ruled by a team environment. Conor's the head of that team at the time, and on the coaches, and I think he did a fantastic job. You know, again, all this thing, he wasn't here for a weight cut, he wasn't there for that. Yeah, because he brought in people that he sees are the best in them areas to manage. You know, I think that's smart, rather than, like, you know, and like, you know, dip into something that, like, you know, that an expert can manage, you know. But yeah, that's I feel how the dynamic was.
Absolutely. So before we let you go, I got to ask you, so like, Conor obviously has faced some of the toughest fighters in the world. From the perspective of nutritionists and sort of training, out of those fighters, out of the best fighters that he's ever faced, who is your top 5 in terms of best physiques? So it's something where you look at the fighters and you're like, damn, that nutritionist, like, he's killing it. I got to get some tips from him.
I don't really physiques, and like, I think a lot of guys in the MMA world naturally have a good physique, you know. And again, I'm probably being biased, but Conor's probably number 1. You know, if I can go that way. You know, 5 down or whatever, like, you know, there's a lot of guys that have nice, I suppose, really kind of top physiques. For example, you know, if you take Edmund Barboza, he's a Brazilian fighter.
Yeah.
Like he's absolutely shredded. Like I think I always looked at him and went,
Yeah.
oh my. And I was like,
he's eating nails in the morning. He's eating nails and bricks.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he's up there for sure. If I looked at him and went, wow, he was shredded. I remember then you'd have I remember, what was your man's name as well? I can't think of his name. I'm terrible with names. The Cuban guy, what's his name? Can't think of his name.
It's still the middle of the night here, so I'm, I got to get my shit together.
Yoel Romero.
Yes.
Yeah, Yoel had a freaky physique. He was just like muscle on muscle. It was just like, what the hell? I think Ngannou, huge man, to be that lean is just like, wow. Because that muscle mass on a lean individual is just incredible. And I'll pick one more. I'll go for Brad. And I don't say that from a biased point of view. Like when I look at Brad and his condition, if you see some of the pictures again that my good friend David Fogarty took while we were in Tough, fantastic, ripped, powerful.
Yeah.
You can tell that man has been sticking to his regime and doing the right things. So yeah, there's some great practitioners in MMA, in the MMA world, and they're coming more prevalent. And even the people who went before me and all that, they definitely put their stamp on the industry and brought a lot of lads up, including me.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly learning and going on to my PhD soon. So yeah, it's sports science, particularly nutrition. It's constantly evolving. People think it's at this kind of stage where it's like, oh, we know all these things, and we know a lot, but we don't know that much. Like you compare it to other things within the medical and health kind of societies, and they're way ahead of us. We're just kind of studying these things now, and it's very, very hard to get research in these things. Like, how are you going to study 30 MMA athletes at once or 40 MMA athletes? It's very hard. Now, there is some research and some literature out there on it, but it's not a lot. So again, you have to be constantly learning, constantly improving, like fighters. And I don't say that lightly. You really do. And as far as I can see, there's a lot of practitioners out there that are coming to that level and getting to that level and aspiring to be that level, and long may it last, because as we said earlier on about the dangers of weight cutting, if they're managed more correctly and done right, we'll have less margin for error. So I'm all for it.
Man, I really appreciate that. Hey, good luck on pursuing your PhD. That's some really good stuff, man. But this has been a great Fancast episode with Tristin Kennedy, Conor McGregor's nutritionist, one of the world's best nutritionists in sports. I'm your host, Noah Lack. Please tune in for more Fancast episodes. And Tristin, once again, man, thank you. That was a blast.
Thanks, brother. That was a blast. Really enjoyed it, Noah. Thank you very much.